everyone. Thanks so much for coming. It's a beautiful day here in Cardiff. Thanks for joining us online as well. Exciting breakfast briefing this morning. We're unlocking value. We're leveraging public sector assets to deliver sustainability. So I think this is going to be a really important topic that hopefully Wales in particular can really benefit from. So thanks so much to Alexia, Owain and Professor Max Munday for delivering our session this morning. We're really pleased to have you. I'm Sarah Lethbridge. I'm the Pro Dean for External Engagement here in Cardiff Business School. It's my role to help the business school to connect with the outside world and to invite the outside world to come in and connect with us. So if you haven't signed up for our community, please do so, and you'll get lots of regular updates about all the things that you can learn about from Cardiff Business School, all things you can get involved with. So there's my contact details there. Thanks for taking a picture of that. That's good. I'll expect an email later. So upcoming events, I am delivering a one-day CPD course, executive education course about service design. So probably everyone who knows me a little bit will know that I care deeply about lean thinking, operational excellence, continuous improvement, and the latest sort of iteration of those ideas, service design. And the joy of service design is it really forces you to think about customers. All the other improvement methodologies can forget about them every now and then. They get a bit distracted with all of those operational efficiencies and cutting wastes. But yeah, service design is the methodology that really cares about, well, why are we here and what do our customers need from us? So if you're interested in that, there's still a couple of places, but got to be honest, guys, it's looking pretty booked. So that's good for me and good for the school. So there are a few places left if you are interested in getting involved. And we've also got a Business in the Community World Earth Day event on the 22nd of April. And you know what we might do as well, which isn't up there? We might sneak in an update around the budgetary statements that are happening at the end of the month. So look out for that. It's going to be hot off the press, quick to air. We got people like Professor Hugh Dixon who can reflect on what our budget updates are going to mean for you. So that should be a good one. Look out for that. Really want to promote our MBA offer. It's such a brilliant program. I wrote a blog last month which referenced a podcast which was sort of having a go at MBAs about how they teach the wrong things. They teach very much a money approach. That's not our MBA. Yes, we have to make money because that's the only way that businesses can sustain and be profitable and give back. But actually, how do you do that whilst delivering on purpose, whilst making sure that you're doing good into society? So our MBA is an excellent offer. We've got it in full-time version, a part-time version with that trendy AI version as well. So if you are interested, just please let us know and we can talk to you in depth about the programme. And here's some contact details again. If you've got an idea for an event, if you've got an idea for a short course, if you want to contribute, guest lectures to the school, please do get in touch. And there's the QR code. So if anyone isn't a member of our community, why don't you get your camera out now, scan the code, and you can easily join and keep being informed of all the wonderful things that we do. We are being recorded today. Let us know if you've got a problem with that. There is going to be some photos on the internet. So let us know if you don't want anything posted about your face. And there's going to be a question and answer session at the end. So please, in the room, put your hand up and wait for a mic, because we pride ourselves on being a hybrid event in the business school for maximum accessibility. But it does mean that you need to wait for a microphone so that the people online can hear you. Sad day, guys, as well. This is the last day of the Cardiff University Zoom licence. I know. We are moving forward in a bold new future with Teams. So online people, get ready to your new Teams future. We're confident that it's going to be okay. But we will miss you, Zoom, and we thank you for everything that you've given us over the last 5 years. Thank you. Goodbye. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So that's it from me. Thanks so much for coming. I love it when I hand over to an academic who knows about millions of things. So this is Professor Max Munday. He's the director of our Welsh Economy Research Unit, and he's going to lead this session. Thanks so much, Max.
Okay. Oh. Right, thanks very much, Sarah. Well, I'm going to keep the introductions quite short because I want to focus our attention on the material that's been prepared for us from colleagues at Transport for Wales. So I'm Max Munday. I'm, as Sarah said, I'm with the Welsh Economy Research Unit in the Cardiff Business School. So, our interest is in regional economics, regional economic policy, regional economic modelling. We're very interested in this issue of how we lever public assets for innovation. So I'm delighted to introduce to talk to this morning. Left my glasses on the table now. I've got to have everything in big print now. I'm delighted. Alexia Course from Transport for Wales is going to speak first to us, and it's going to be followed by Owain Taylor-Shaw secondly. And the topic matter is unlocking value, leveraging public sector assets to deliver sustainability. So please give them a good listening. We'll try and keep the time. We aim to finish at 9:30, don't we, Sarah? Like to leave a little bit of time for questioning, argument. I'm supposed to be a discussant, a discordant. So yeah, have some questions ready. And with that, I'd like to hand over to. Thank you so much for coming to speak to us this morning.
Thank you, Max. Thank you. Is this on? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, brilliant. Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for listening to us this morning. As Max has said, Owain and I are just going to talk to you this morning about what we're doing in Transport for Wales on this topic around leveraging value from our assets. So I've got my clicker. I'm hoping the slides are with us and we'll see how we go. So very brief background on Transport for Wales and who we are. So I'm hoping most people in the room, if you live and work around the Cardiff area, you would have seen our trains and you would have seen some of the changes that have been happening over the last 5 to 6 years. But just for those that maybe aren't so local, we were set up back in sort of 2018 time as the Transport Authority for Wales. And since then, we've been running the train services for the Wales and Borders network. And we're a not-for-profit company. We also acquired the Core Valley Lines infrastructure north of Cardiff Queen Street back in 2020, and that was from Network Rail. And since then, we've been building our transformation of our metro system on the Core Valley Lines network. And for any of you that live or work on the valleys, you will have seen masks going up around the infrastructure, and hopefully some of you have started to see some of our new trains around the network as well. And what are we here to do? Well, it says on the screen, we're there to deliver, a transformational multimodal transport network for the people and communities of Wales and the borders. And we've started with trains, and we're going to be moving on to buses and bus franchising over the next few years as well. So a few key stats about us, because I expect when you see some of those stats, you kind of go, well, it's a bit bigger than I thought, really, actually. There's quite a lot going on. So over 1,000 services a day that we operate across the whole of Wales, over 200 stations. We've got 85,000 passenger rail journeys every single day. So that's a lot of people that we move around the country. And people have come back to us. We obviously had the pandemic where, we were all affected by that. But over the last few years, people have been coming back to using our train services, and you can see up there 13% growth in our passenger numbers as people start to come back to using our network year on year, which is fantastic to see. And linked to that, our revenue's been growing as well, because as I said at the start, we're a not-for-profit company. So we get, the way we're funded is through customers buying their tickets to travel with us, and also government subsidy. And obviously, the more that we can secure revenue from the customers that use our services, the less reliant we are on government subsidy and less of a burden on the taxpayer. And we're actually one of the few public sector businesses, actually, where if we increase the amount of usage that we have on our network, we actually reduce our burden on the public purse. Because the more people we can put on our train services, the more income we can generate. The train is a certain size. So the more we can fill it, we've already paid for the size of the train, therefore the more we can fill it, the better it is for government to be able to spend their hard-earned income on other public services and public good. So that's one of the key things that we focus on as well, is how do we make sure that we are as self-reliant and as self-sufficient as we can possibly be. So I've kind of covered it there probably actually in some of those things. So those are the two areas that we cover. So I've talked about how we can be more self-reliant. Obviously, the primary income generation for us as Transport for Wales is from ticket sales. That's by far the biggest chunk. But the topic that we're here to talk to you about today is what else do we have in our arsenal as Transport for Wales that we could leverage commercial return from, because the more we can do that, it all adds to fill up the pot so that we are, again, less reliant on government subsidy. And so some of the things that we're doing, so I'm just going to talk through what we're doing on the generating revenue from ticket sales. And then I'm going to cover on all the other elements that we've got at our disposal where we can leverage some income. And then Owain will tell you through on one specific area that we're focusing on as well. So we've done a lot in this space particularly in the last 12 months, actually. And for those of you that use our services in the local area around Cardiff, you can now tap in and tap out with pay-as-you-go technology. It's a single leg pricing, which means you don't even need to buy a ticket. You don't need to worry about the price. It's all done by zone based on how far you travel. It's basically the equivalent of the London Underground, in effect. And that's what we've rolled out here around the valleys and Cardiff. And that's a first outside of London in the UK. So it's the first on a heavy rail network rather than a tram network. So we're really proud about that. And we're still already seeing customers move across to use this because it's just simpler and easier and you don't need to worry about it. We've also partnered with Seatfrog. So if you travel up on our Marches line from Cardiff towards Shrewsbury and Crewe and Manchester, we have a first-class dining car on some of our services up there. And we've got a chef on board, and we do 3-course meals for 2 courses for 25 quid, 3 for 30. Bargain. I would encourage anyone to go up there. I've tried the food myself. It is, it's really delicious. And I'm not just saying that. You should definitely go out there and try it. We've had reviews from Wales Online, which are fantastic. And so what we've done with Seatfrog is we've partnered with them to try and encourage more, so cheaper upgrades. So you can have your standard class ticket and then you can do an auction via the Seatfrog app and pay maybe 10 quid or 15 quid and you can get an upgrade into first class just to try the experience. So we're starting to see that as well, where people that might not want to spend first class prices are going, oh, do you know what? For an extra 10 or 15 quid, I'll give it a go. And that's all helping generate increased revenue. Another thing that we're going to launch next month, actually, is subscription and digital loyalty. So again, that's going to be another first for the UK rail sector. No other train operator has this type of product available. And so we're trying to be as innovative as we can, where basically you'll sign up to this app, and for every mile that you travel with our services, you'll get a point. And then after you've built up a certain amount of points, you'll then get either some discounts off your future journeys, or you might get a free coffee, or you might get a little treat on your birthday if you want to register your details with us. So it's things like that to just try and encourage a bit of loyalty. For any of you that have it, we're not brand specific, but it's like your Costa card or something. You build up your points and you get your stamps and things like that. So that's what we're trying to do there. And we're also very conscious of trying to integrate public transport as well between modes. And we've launched a number of tickets products so that people can connect between modes, whether it's a train and a bus, whether it's to the airport, whether it's to Holyhead and to get on a boat. So there's lots of products out there that we're trying to explore just to try and encourage more and more people to leave the car at home and give public transport a go. Some other things that we're focusing on then. So that's all in the fare box space, as we call it, ticketing and customers traveling with us. I'll try and just canter through some of these now as I'm conscious of time. So what else do we have at our disposal? So I mentioned we've got over 240 stations around our network. Well, all of those stations have spaces that you can advertise on. And so we've partnered with a local advertising firm, a small and medium-sized business based here in Cardiff called Route Media. and they are in charge of all of our advertising material and sites. And we're doing a lot of work with them to digitalize those poster sites, so that, basically just to modernize it, make it fresh, and also generate more value from our advertising sites. And at the moment, we're making, just shy of, I don't know, about £4 million or so a year just from advertising income. Now, clearly, we're not going to compete with, the London market for advertising, but we want to do a lot more in that space because and it supports the local economy as well. And we've also, in this world, we've also bought a big screen that's going to go in on our new Cardiff bus interchange just opposite the train station at Cardiff Central. And that's going to be a bit like, no, not as big, but like Piccadilly Circus in London with the screen that goes around the side there. So we're installing that, been working really closely with Cardiff Council on the consents needed for that. And one of the ideas there is, yes, it will do advertising, but it could also showcase, major sporting events and things like that, and create a bit of a buzz for that part of the central square between the bus, the BBC, and the train station. So that's some of the things we're doing to try and, create a bit of, just a bit of a nice, as I say, a nice buzz around the place, but also generate some income for Transport for Wales to help us run our services. Other things we're doing is EV charging. So we've got a program to install EV charging points around our network and support the decarbonisation agenda so that we can encourage customers with electric vehicles to come drive to our stations, park your car, and then get on your train and travel with us. So you'll start to see these pop up over the next couple of years as we start to install those around the network. And again, it's just another added service proposition for customers to try and use our services and choose travelling by public transport. A few other things as well. So in the property and retailing space, some of you probably don't even think of these things, but when you go to a train station and there's a coffee shop, or there's a Marks and Spencer's, or there's a little sandwich bar, all those businesses pay us some rent. And they also pay us a little bit of turnover rent as well. So that is, we get a percentage of their income that they make over and above the base rent that they pay to us. Sorry. So that means that we're incentivized to work with them and support them, because the more sales they can make, the more we get a little bit of a slice of the pie. And so we're doing quite a lot to try and bring in more retailers to our stations where we can. And we've just got some examples on there where we're trying to support local businesses. And also, it's not all about making money. So some of our stations, we're never going to make a lot of money from renting out the space, but it's better to have a community interest in there, using it, making the stations safe and feel part of the local community, than just having a boarded up vacant retail shop that's not serving any purpose whatsoever. So we also do quite a lot of philanthropic things where we agree deals on a peppercorn for a charity, for example, just so that they can, they can bring their kind of business to the local station and provide a service to the local community. And it helps make the station feel, just a bit more loved, really. So those are the sorts of things that we do in the property space. Filming, that's a new one. So if any of you were around Cardiff Central last year, you might have seen Claudia Winkleman, who was there filming the piano, one of the episodes of the Channel 4 series that she was hosting. And we made a little bit of money from that as well, because they asked to come for permission to film at Cardiff Central, and we got a bit of money. And that's given us an idea. And we've gone, right, can we do more of this sort of stuff then, please? And so we're building up a bit of a proposition that we can go out to filming production companies, whether it's in the UK or international, to try and showcase our network. We've got some of the most fantastic scenery around Wales and some of the most beautiful local stations that I would imagine a lot of people don't know about. So we're going to do a whole kind of brochure pitch thing around, come and work with us, come do your period drama filming at Betsy Coed Station in North Wales, or go to Conway and use the castle for your filming and then come and use the station, and, you know, things like that, or to try and just generate some additional value from the assets that we're lucky enough to have in, you know, in our portfolio. So that's filming. And then the other thing that you'll kind of probably see more physical things, is actual investment in our stations. So we're also doing quite a lot to put a lot of investment into our stations to enhance our station assets. A great example at the moment is, and there's a picture on the top left there, where sort of in the middle, and we just announced it with the planning consent application last week, I think, or the week before, £140 million investment into Cardiff Central that will significantly enhance both concourses for north and south, the flow around the station, also the retail and customer proposition for the station. So there's an awful lot we want to do to just enhance Cardiff Central and make it fit for the 21st century as a capital city train station. So that's a really exciting project that we're working on, alongside working with Cardiff Council on investment in Cardiff Crossrail, as well as a whole host of other schemes that we're working on around the network. And then, finally, one of the really exciting things that we've been focusing on is developing a brand new commercial subsidiary business. And so what we did a few years ago as part of delivering the South Wales Metro is we had to install a whole new series of fibre optic cabling all around the Core Valley Lines network, because we needed it for the signalling system. But what we realised as part of that project was we were only going to use about 5% of the bandwidth, really, of the cables to run the signalling. So there's all this latent kind of demand that's there in this telecom signalling cable that's not being used for anything. So Owain and the team had a fantastic idea to do something about that. It's taken us a little while, hasn't it? It's fair to say. It's taken us a few years to work through the business case, the market, to understand, you know, what market is out there, whether we could commercialize this asset, whether there'd be customers out there that would want to partner with us and like provide, you know, income to us for selling this asset. And the answer is yes. And so we launched this. We had approval with Welsh Government this time last year to turn this into a proper business. And we launched TFW ffeibr. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yes, thank you. TFW ffeibr last November with a new brand and completely new proposition. And it's all geared around leveraging commercial value from an existing railway asset that we had to invest in anyway. So it's a really great innovative example of where we're running a railway and actually can we use our assets for added benefit and added value, that ultimately any money we make from ffeibr gets reinvested back into the railway as well and back into Transport for Wales in general. So without further ado, I will stop there and I will hand over to Owain, who is going to take you through what we've been doing on ffeibr in a bit more detail. Thank you.
Could have carried on if you wanted to.
It was on a roll.
Bore da, everybody. Diolch yn fawr i'r Prifysgol am y gwahoddiad. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the university for the invitation to be here. It's fantastic to finally be able to stand in front of people and say, ffeibr is here. So, as Alexia mentioned earlier, you know, we're here to talk about unlocking value and leveraging the public sector assets. And that's where this idea came from, really. So I'm Owain Taylor-Shaw, Head of Business Development for ffeibr, but I've only been kind of living and breathing that role for about 8 months in anger, I suppose, for the last 5.5 years. Feels like a long time. I'm not quite an OG like you, but I'm kind of OG-ish, yeah. So the last 5.5 years, we've been doing the kind of stuff that Alexia mentioned there. So looking at how we can unlock value from advertising, car parks, retail, etc., big screens at the Cardiff Business Cardiff Bus Interchange, etc. But then it was about and Alexia alluded to, it's taken a while, but it was about 5 years ago. I think I was in the wrong meeting at the right time. People were talking about kind of big infrastructure stuff to do with the metro, and somebody touched upon fibre signalling. Now, this might be a little bit cryptic for now, big bandwidth from our lines to yours, but I think you're probably kind of filling the gaps and it'll become clear later on. So Alexia's already mentioned the metro. One crucial bit that she didn't mention was that in order to kind of carry out the metro project, which is a +1 billion pound infrastructure project, Welsh Government and Transport for Wales actually bought that land and that infrastructure off Network Rail. And that was critical for us from our point of view, because that means we not only own the asset, but own all the kind of land around it. Because the idea is that, you know, yes, there's this kind of operational fibre, very boring kind of operational fibre going across 154 kilometres of the core valley lines. But with the kind of different layers of ownership, it means that we can then take ownership of that, and we can then kind of take it out to market and try and create value out of it. So I was initially thinking of this very kind of in a kind of very commercial sense. But the more I started looking at it and the more we kind of played around with it, you start to realize what this can unlock in the communities and in the kind of region itself. And if you know, not to hyperbolize too much, but kind of all of Wales as well. Because, you know, I won't kind of stick rigidly to the bullet points, but you know, this is what we realized was, okay, there's a lot of talk and hype around AI and data centers and stuff at the moment. But, you know, in order to bring that kind of investment, that kind of infrastructure to a country or a region, this is the type of stuff you need. So you need the fibre, the power, and the land ownership. And because of the things I just mentioned now, we have those. But also, you know, the original idea was that it'll help create a greater plurality of services in terms of digital connectivity for the Cardiff capital region, all those kind of, I think we hit about 5 of those local authorities within the Cardiff capital region. It's about, I think, just over 1 million in terms of population. And so if we can bring that kind of extra digital connectivity to those regions, which some of them are deemed, maybe not kind of a pretty term, but kind of digital poverty areas, then, you know, we are not only kind of creating revenue out of it, but also we're kind of bringing extra socioeconomic value as well. So yeah, so just to kind of recap, we're Wales's newest infrastructure company, and hoping to work with not just the ISPs, the kind of people who provide your internet, and like I said, trying to bring more plurality there, but also working with mobile network operators, your Vodafones, your TalkTalks, and what have you, and your Threes, so that we can bring more kind of better 4G, 5G connectivity to the region as well as, you know, like I mentioned, anything from data centers to semiconductor companies to big media production companies who need this kind of connectivity in the 21st century as their production houses. So it runs along the rail lines. So we're really blessed in a way. I'd love to take credit for it, but, you know, if you think of where we run from, so I think there's a, I'll go back to the previous slide. But if you look at the where we run through on the map, so we've got everything from Cardiff Bay through the capital city itself, all the suburbs, and then up to the valleys, which have really kind of, you know, big centres of population, but are really hard to get to geographically. If you want to kind of build and create this infrastructure yourself from scratch, you're talking about a huge multi-million pound kind of project. But we're there already with our train lines. So it was a real kind of, well, a lot of people mentioned the term no-brainer when we kind of mentioned this to people. It was hard to get it off the ground, but it was a no-brainer because we can tap into all these kind of big towns and villages, which, like I said, have really good kind of centres of population purely by the fact that we're there already. So I will try and stay true to the slides and go back a little bit. So our identity, mission, and purpose. So we are born from a kind of joint effort, I should say, between Welsh Government and Transport for Wales. So we took the idea to Welsh Government a few years ago now. We've had to kind of, you know, bounce it back and forth and kind of and finesse it. But the ultimate aim is to drive inward investment to the region, to the Cardiff capital region, and help alleviate the burden on the public purse. So as Alexia mentioned, the more money we can generate, the more financially sustainable we can become, which means the Welsh Government can spend more money on really good things like hospitals, schools, and whatever else it needs to invest in. And so our kind of mission, if you want to call it, is to help enable ISPs and other businesses to connect to these communities. We want to connect Wales to the world through the best digital infrastructure. This isn't an island, it connects to the rest of the world via other people's connectivity as well, and helps Wales connect globally. And we want to generate value, economic benefits to Wales and the region. Ready to go, state-of-the-art infrastructure, not my words. And this is it's an industry first. So you may have heard, similar things happening elsewhere across the UK, but it's in everything that Transport for Wales and to be fair, Welsh Government want to do is we want to do it ourselves. In the past, people have, franchised similar opportunities perhaps out. Never in the rail sector though. It's a real industry first there, and we are the first to do it ourselves. We've created a subsidiary company called ffeibr, and we have our own board of directors, we have our own staff, we have our own kind of policies, and we are there purely to deliver on all the things I mentioned just now. It's the objective is that we feed up to Transport for Wales as our parent company. And we want to work with Welsh Government, work with the region, work with the communities to make sure that we do deliver on what we were hoping and have set out to do. So I mentioned the economic benefits earlier. So I've kind of shied away from too much kind of GVA calculations, etc., for a Thursday morning, but I've stolen that magnet idea from some consultants who used it a few years ago with me. But the idea is we want to kind of help bring prosperity and bring opportunity up from the capital city as well. So it's not just so we want to make Cardiff, the capital city itself, a global player and to be able to compete on a global scale. But we want to be driving that opportunity up to the valleys as well, where maybe it hasn't had such opportunities. So if you think about, all the kind of the land, the skills, and the ambition that lies in the northern valleys there, this is the type of infrastructure that we hope can kind of deliver on that ambition. Like I said before, it addresses the areas of digital poverty in South East Wales, and it improves the digital experience as well for our passengers. So I haven't mentioned too much about passengers. We are a separate kind of organisation in that sense to Transport for Wales itself, but we can help enhance station connectivity, track-to-train connectivity, and make it a more kind of pleasant experience for Transport for Wales passengers as well. So I won't dwell too much on this, but it all kind of links in when you think about the Wales transport strategy. For those who are familiar with it, or llwybr newydd, I should call it. It goes to the top priority of bringing service to people in order to reduce the need to travel. So by doing this, we are helping, decarbonise and take cars off the road in South Wales, because people are able to do more remotely. It fits in with the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and also it bang on with the Welsh Government digital strategy for Wales as well, to underpin good quality infrastructure across Wales. And I think that's me. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's interesting. It's insightful. When we think about where the railway goes, doesn't it, in South Wales up the valley, and this connection between relatively high productivity parts of Wales and lower productivity parts of Wales, and the role of infrastructure and actually bridging those gaps. So I think that was very right. So we have a little bit, we have some time for questions now. So just while you're warming up, make sure you've got questions, otherwise I'll do what I do with my students. If they don't ask questions, I'll ask you questions and pinpoint people. But I just had one question to kick off. When you did this, I mean, you were sort of hinting with ffeibr, but it's perhaps been quite a long process to get this underway. What sort of hindrances have you actually come across with this and actually, doing this? Because yes, you have the land, you have the infrastructure, you have the permissions. I mean, what hinders the process of doing this? Because it's quite, several elements of interesting innovation here.
No, definitely.
Do
you want to take that one?
Well, yeah, you're probably more tactful than I, but I'll try and be tactful. I think, and it's nobody's, there's no blame or fault pointed at anybody at all. But I don't think like the public sector as an organization isn't always that well suited to kind of create commercial ideas or to unlock commercial opportunities.
Nicely put.
So it was a little bit of a kind of, we had to kind of create our own process almost and kind of create our own way of delivering on this idea. And working hand in hand with everybody from Welsh Government colleagues to other kind of stakeholders, everyone had the same ambition and the same, desire. But yeah, we had to kind of make it up as we went along, a lot of it as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And just to build on that, we're trying to create that more kind of private sector ethos, but within a public sector environment. And sometimes the two things, there can be some challenge there as well. So that's what we're trying to do.
And is ffeibr, is it a private sector company? I'm sorry, it's difficult to crystallize this, but what's the relationship between ffeibr, Transport for Wales, Welsh Government? It's totally owned by.
Yeah, so it's a subsidiary of Transport for Wales, and obviously Transport for Wales is a publicly funded, owned company of the Welsh Government. So whilst it's its own unique legal entity, it obviously reports in to Transport for Wales.
Okay, that's my two. Where can we? Well, we'll start with Jen. There may also be some questions online, so I'll try and flick between the very local audience and online. If you could say where you're from, who you are, if you use the rail network.
Dan Ward from North Star Transition. I'm interested on your thoughts. What proportion of the running costs for Transport for Wales are energy costs? And what are your thoughts on the opportunity to reduce those overheads through more locally owned renewable energy, across the public sector, Transport for Wales, community energy, etc.?
Fantastic question. Right, I'm now trying to desperately remember our P&L in my head to answer that question. Our running costs are, pretty high, I think it's fair to say. Obviously, a lot of we only cover trains at the moment. Over the next few years, we'll be taking on the bus network as well through bus franchising. But our mode of traction is really dependent on the infrastructure that's available to us. So on the Valley lines, as you know, we're moving to electrification, and we will have we'll have tram trains running around the core Valley lines network. So we're moving away from diesel, moving to electric and battery operation, because we own that infrastructure and we can do that. However, on the rest of the network, which is owned by Network Rail as part of the national railway infrastructure, obviously there is no electrification anywhere else, and there are currently no plans to invest in electrification in the Welsh rail network. And so what we can only do from a rolling stock perspective is look at, so we've got a diesel train fleet that we're rolling out for the Wales and Borders network, a brand new diesel train fleet. And the only thing we can do at the moment, unless electrification comes in, is look at tri-mode operations, where you could have a combination of diesel and battery and electric combinations on our vehicles. And then that enables passive provision, which in the fullness of time, if UK government decides they do want to invest in electrification, we would already have the train fleet ready that could literally, you could put a pantograph on the top and connect it up and away you go. So that's the type of work that we're doing to look at how you could move to a more of a decarbonised network over time. But we are very dependent on the tracks and the infrastructure that's out there. In terms of the cost, I can't give you a number off the top of my head, but it is a lot of money.
Sorry, there was one gentleman at the back. Yeah.
Thanks. Diolch, Pab. That was really interesting. To be honest, I didn't come here this morning expecting to say that was really cool, some of the stuff you said. So thank you for that.
I'm glad that we're making the railways cool. That's good. I like that.
Railways are always cool. I've got an ex, so I'm sure would tell me that. I'm Rhys Good. I'm from Good Consulting, and I'm going to confess, first of all, that I'm also a county borough councillor in Bridgend, so I'm going to switch hats. I noticed there that the Bridgend valleys weren't included on your map. Now, some of that is because of where the metro was originally sort of placed and how it was meant to work. But I think what comes out of that for me is how do we make sure that the great work you're doing doesn't leave certain areas behind because of arbitrary choices made 15 years ago, and to ensure that, you know, the valleys that do have train lines, like the Llynfi Valley in Bridgend, which isn't part of the network, is also included in this great work, but also then the valleys that don't have railways at all because of reforms in the 50s, such as the Garw Valley and the Ogmore Valley, also get this advantage. And then one further slight question is how do you maximize that work of making sure that the train lines don't just encourage a sucking of all the talent and the money out of the regions into Cardiff, but actually pushes them back and opens them up rather than sort of bringing it into sort of, don't want to call Cardiff a sinkhole, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah, really good questions. If I wanted me, I'll take the first bit and then
go on.
you come in with the second one. So in terms of the other valleys that you mentioned, you know, we're very conscious of that. At the moment, obviously, we can only work within the land and the ownership boundaries that we've got within Transport for Wales at the moment, and within which we have the remit from Welsh Government to do this commercialisation of the fibre network. So that's why we're focusing in on there first and want to get that off the ground effectively and working well. But at the same time, we are, you know, working hand in glove with Welsh Government, who have a lot of ambitions and aspirations around fibre networks and digital connectivity in other parts of Wales. And so what we are doing is we're talking to Welsh Government about how this new fibre business could potentially support Welsh Government in areas beyond the direct railway as an option. So if we create the hub and the skill set, there's no reason why it has to be solely linked to railway lines. You know, we could offer that as a service to other areas around Wales, if it makes, you know, sense to do so. So there is an option. It's not an immediate one, but there is something that we're still exploring around how we can make sure that we can support, you know, other parts of the area really in full. And then the whole kind of sucking in, sucking out question. Do you want to try and give that one a go?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's a natural fit now because, you know, like I said, we own the Core Valley lines, Welsh Government own the Core Valley lines, and we own that fibre, and, you know, it's an easier thing to do. But I see it very much as an incubation. You know, if we can get this right, then there's no reason why we can't spread our wings further. And okay, we'll have to kind of pivot a little bit, but we can do what we do across Wales. But then in terms of the kind of, I think that, you know, a bit of a crude graph, picture, but, you know, the pulling up of opportunity from Cardiff, I think it's something that it's not just exclusive to ffeibr, but it's the transport network as a whole. So if you think of, you know, the land values and all the kind of all the kind of expense that comes with, you know, doing stuff in the capital city. Well, now there's no excuse for people to be able to kind of move up and you know, have residential developments up in the valleys, to bring jobs up to the valleys, to bring offices, to bring their, you know, to bring their opportunities, manufacturing, anything. up to the core value lines, because we've got the transport, we've got the fibre infrastructure, like I said, we've got the land, the power, et cetera, et cetera. It all kind of dovetails and kind of daisy chains together to try and bring that prosperity up. I will caveat with the actual doing isn't our role. We can provide and enable, and we put all this kind of foundation there. But the actual kind of delivering on that will be for others to do. But we want to work with them, and really work hand in hand with them to ensure that that this gets, that these opportunities are taken.
John, do we have any online? Sorry, just before I go back.
I've got a question that I'm going to ask on behalf of Hanin, who is online this morning, who's posed a question. It's a bit of a sensitive one for us and a bit close to home, but I'm going to ask anyway. Does the potential reduction in university student population and staff in Cardiff have an impact on your growth plans? And if so, how are you planning to manage?
I can answer that. Sorry, go on.
Well, it's a really, it's a really interesting question, isn't it? I mean, I think every business is going through some quite challenging times at the moment, just with the way that the economy is, and what's happening out in the world as well. And we're cognizant of that, very much so. And I think that's one of the, that's not the primary, but it's one of the reasons, one of the considerations we have around why we're trying to be so innovative in our ticketing products that we offer to customers, so that we can try and encourage people to use public transport, and to make it as cheap and as value for money as we possibly can. So yeah, we are absolutely cognizant of, the challenges that businesses face, at the moment, including university businesses. But what we're seeing is that customers are coming back and using the rail network. And what we're also seeing is customers are using it more frequently as well. So not only are we getting new customers, we're actually seeing those customers travel more frequently with us as well. And we're seeing that through the pay-as-you-go ticketing system, where we're seeing multiple taps coming in from customers as well. So that sort of says to me that if we can provide the service, and we can provide all the lovely new trains, and they're on time and they're clean, and that they're value for money, then people will use them. And ultimately, that's what we're here to do. So definitely something to want to watch.
There's one more online.
The question online, Catherine Howell is online. Catherine, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Sure, thank you. My name's Catherine Howell. I'm the head of Natural Capital Development at Banau Brycheiniog National Park, and commercially minded opportunities is on our mind as well. And so thanks for the great presentation. It's really great to see that you have the political appetite and the investment to sort of acquire infrastructure into public ownership for, commercial and social outcomes. I think that's a really positive signal. I'd like to just sort of understand some of the drivers behind that as well. And sort of, do you have a kind of, specific targets around financial sustainability that's been sort of driving the suite of commercialization that you've sort of gone through? And has that led to sort of, how do you kind of organize behind that internally? As you've mentioned, that is a challenge in the public sector, but do you have a kind of team dedicated to commercial, that kind of work inside and outside the business on that? Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, really, really good question. So to take the first one, where did this all come from? Well, realistically, this came from the pandemic and the fact that we lost our entire customer base overnight for months on end. And we have a very costly requirement in terms of the operation is fixed. So you've got very set and fixed and high running costs for running a railway. The trains are the trains. You've got to pay for them, whether there's any customers on them or not. The stations are the stations. They're there. You've got to pay for them. And what we found through COVID was obviously there were no customers at all. So the income fell off a cliff. And we had to in-house we had to say goodbye to our private sector train operator that we had back in 2018 because the business model just didn't work anymore. So we insourced it into the public sector. And actually, I think that was the best decision we ever made, because we've got a lot more transparency over costs, a lot more control now, and can really make a difference. So ultimately, that's where it sort of originated from. And then the other piece was, as people were starting to come out of COVID and the pandemic, that previous, potentially slightly arrogant mentality that existed in the railway industry, which was, well, we don't have to fight for customers because they'll just turn up anyway because they need to travel. That's not there anymore. People have a choice now. We've got people on hybrid now here today. There's a choice for people to make. And rather than, there'll be certain colleagues in the industry that I work with that sort of kind of rejected that and said, no, they'll all just come back. I've been very clear that I've just embraced it. And I've said, look, the world has changed. We have to be as adaptive as we possibly can. And we have to be so good that customers want to travel with us. We can't just sit back and expect people to have to put up with, really old trains and delayed trains and trains that don't turn up and, they're all filthy and all the rest. No, people should expect more, and, rightly so. So yeah, we've got to earn the right now for customers to travel with us. And that's a very different mentality that I think probably a lot of different organizations in the railway industry haven't needed to worry about for years, because we've just seen growth go like this in the rail industry. So I suppose that's where it originated from. And then in terms of do we have a team to lead all of this? Yes, it's my team. So we have an entire commercial directorate. I run a team of over 400 people, and over 200 of those people run one of our other subsidiary businesses. So we've got about 200 or so people that sole job is around revenue, it's around commercial property management, it's around enhancement schemes, it's around managing our procurement, our supply chain, our contract management base, it's around delivering our new trains program as well as the fibre business. So yeah, our whole my whole directorate is focused on revenue targets and managing our contract base and safeguarding TfW's commercial interests. So I hope that helps answer that question.
Right, we're not going to have time. I think this gentleman was, right, okay. So I think it's this gentleman next. We've probably got time for 2 more questions, I think. So, yeah.
Thank you. James Hall, independent consultant. Thank you very much. That's fascinating. Been a big fan of Transport for Wales since it started, but it's somewhat frustrating when trying to promote all the good things that are going on, partly I think because of the culture that we're in, a quick fix culture, and obviously it's a long term. So a couple of things. One is I'm trying to inculcate in the generation below the generation, so our grandchildren love just jumping on one of the new trains and going somewhere, so that sort of experience. How do we encourage people to embrace rowers? What are you doing in the lines, particularly up the valleys, to celebrate the good news and when it comes out? And the other thing is, and it's a little flippant thing, but I have never been able to book a seat on the Marches line from Cardiff to Manchester and travelled it a lot. Is that seat frog a way of guaranteeing a seat? And when is that service going to be on time and a good one?
Good questions.
So quick answer.
I'll try and be really quick.
Got to get a few trains through the platform here.
Yeah. So in terms of encouraging young people, absolutely. We already offer quite a lot of discounts for either children travel for free when they're travelling with a fare-paying adult, or we also have discounts for students as well through educational season tickets. So we can do that through schools to try and encourage children to, travel to school by train. And we also, whenever we're launching a new train, we also try and reach out to local schools as well. And this was last year now, but we launched our new service down in the Carmarthen area. And so we had a load of school children come over for the launch event. They met with me, with the minister for the area, and just to try and encourage them to travel on our trains. And they absolutely loved it. And it was good to see. So we are trying to do more and more things like that. And on the Marches line, so we don't currently offer seat reservations on any of our services. But it's something that what we do though on the seat frog thing is we quota control it. So you won't get a specific seat, but what you will, we will quota control it. So you'll be guaranteed a seat. It just won't be a specific one. And that's what we're doing at the moment. But we'll always keep, you know, the concept of seat reservations under review.
There's a roguish-looking fella at the back there. Has been had his hand up. I'm quite apprehensive what you might ask.
I think this will have to be the last question.
Yeah. Steve Dimmick, I'm o Owain Cultural Trust. Diolch fawr, Owain ac Alexia. I guess I wanted to ask a question, but we haven't got much time. So what I'm going to say is actually I sold my car 2.5 years ago, and I've used the trains ever since. And what Alexia's been saying over the last year about the improvements that have been made, I can testify to that. So if you're in the room and you live in Cardiff, you do not need a car, is what I'm going to say. I've biked here today, and it's a great life to live. I get the train from Cardiff Central to Sarn or my Steg when I'm going to work, and the service is, the improvement on the timings is just chalk and cheese to what it's been. So I want to say congratulations and diolch for what you've done. Owain, question to you is, who are your competitors, and who will be your first customers for ffeibr?
Oh, yeah, interesting question. So, I mean, competitors with a small c, I think, you know, are out there. So it would be, you know, the incumbents, as they're called, so something like BT or OpenReach. But, you know, with a small c, we want to work hand in hand with them, and we want to kind of partner with them. And then it's about us enabling others then, not to be in competition with anybody. You know, we provide the, I suppose, the track for others to ride on, to use a railway analogy, bit strained. But, you know, we want to, it's for others to come to us and say, please, can we kind of use your infrastructure so that we can, you know, reach Rhondda or reach Treorchy or reach Aberdare. It's not to be in competition with anybody, really. Was there a second part to the question? Sorry to say this, it's commercially sensitive, so I could say, but I have to kill you, Steve. I would enjoy that, but I won't.
Okay, well, that's been excellent. Thank you so much. I found it. I think several things came through to me, but I mean, I was very encouraged by some of the more subtle economic development implications. I think of what we've heard. I mean, for example, the role of local SMEs. I think in some of those initiatives, I thought that was very interesting. I was also very encouraged, I think, that in some of what's occurred there, we seem to be taking the technological lead. With some of those innovations, we don't see that in other parts of the UK. So I was very encouraged by that, and also, it wasn't just about the economic returns, was it? Social returns were important. How we might use some of those stations where perhaps in more isolated areas, but to give social returns, community returns in more isolated areas of Wales. So, yeah, and I think it's nice. I think it's important that we do. It would be encouraging to see this sort of innovation in other publicly owned assets in Wales. So I think that's all I'd like to thank our speakers as well. I'd like to thank you for your questions, but thank you, Alexia, Owain. That's been very helpful this morning. And there's still pan of chocolates left. Unfortunately, the one I had earlier is laying a little heavy, I feel, but I might have to have a second one, settle it down. But thank you very much for your time this morning. Again, thank you for your contribution. Thanks.